Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to share this meditation with you today. I'm grateful to Pastor Herbert Ponder and Reverend Lorraine Ponder for the invite. I invite you to listen to the Old Testament scripture found in 1 Kings chapter 19, beginning at verse number 1. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went into a cave and spent the night. 1 Kings chapter 19 continues the story in 1 Kings chapter 18, where Elijah had this encounter with the prophets of Baal. He defeated the prophets of Baal and had them all killed. And now King Ahab in chapter 19, verse 1, is having a conversation with his wife, Queen Jezebel, and lets her know that Elijah had all the prophets killed. And so Queen Jezebel made sure she sent a messenger to Elijah to let him know that basically she was out to kill him. Elijah was fearful for his life, so he ran. He made his way to Judah in the wilderness, and he was having this conversation with God, and basically he was saying, "I've had enough, Lord. Take my life." Elijah's mental and emotional well-being was not at a good place. He had responsibilities that he fulfilled. The will of God in his life, he was doing, he was fulfilling, he was following through what God had asked him to do. And yet, while he was doing that, and as he fulfilled those responsibilities, there were forces that were against him. Everybody was not in his corner. Everybody was not in agreement with him. Being a prophet, doing God's will, put him in a space and a place where he had enemies and those who were out to get him, to the point where it had an effect on his mental and emotional well-being, that he got tired to the point where he wanted to end his life. I believe at this point that Elijah was probably dealing with severe depression, and he couldn't see a way out. And so what he did was, after he had this prayer, had this conversation with God, he fell asleep. And so although he had fulfilled his responsibilities, he had these forces, these powers, these energies that were against him. And since he was a prophet of God, God sent resources to him. You know, one of the blessings about God is that God understands and recognizes our potential and possibilities even when we don't, because Elijah didn't recognize that he can go further than he went, that he can go further in his life, and that his life did not have to end. And so God sent resources to him. The angel came, touched him while he was asleep, told him to get up and eat. There was some baked bread that was over there. There was some water that was there. So he ate the bread, he drank the water, and then he lay down again. And the beauty of God is that God doesn't just give us one resource. God gives us multiple resources for what we need and even for what we don't know that we need. Because the angel came back a second time and touched him and said, get up and eat, because the journey that you are about to go on is too much for you. In other words, these are the resources that you need so that you can be refreshed to go back and fulfill your responsibility. So it's a cycle, right? You have responsibilities, you fulfill those responsibilities. You know, even though there are forces against you, there are some resources that will help you on the journey so that you can continue your responsibilities. So the angel came back a second time and to let him know, you got to get up and eat because the journey is too much for you. Here are some more resources. So he got up, he ate and he drank, he was strengthened, and then he was able to go on his journey again. When I think about this aspect of God's life, I think about African-American men and mental health. African-American men like Elijah have responsibilities as fathers, responsibilities as husbands, responsibilities as brothers, responsibilities as friends, responsibilities as coaches, responsibilities in their life that they are fulfilling, they're seeking to fulfill, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and yet there are forces that are trying to stop them, forces that are trying to diminish them, forces that are trying to destroy them. And yet the forces come in a way that have an effect on their mental and emotional health. Forces such as structural racism that is present in various aspects of their lives. Forces such as adhering to traditional masculine norms that tell African-American men, you got to be tough, norms that tell African-American men, you know, to suppress your emotions and don't express them. And these forces, these powers that are against African-American men fulfilling their responsibilities have an effect on African-American, the mental and emotional health of African-American men. And so just like Elijah, they get tired. And yet there are some resources for their mental and emotional health, their mental and emotional well-being that will help them navigate the stresses that they face in life. Tonight at 7 p.m., we will continue this conversation, focusing on mental health in African-American men. I look forward to seeing you and sharing with you more about this particular topic. Thank you, and we'll see you at 7.